Good evening, everyone. It's Rabbi Dr. J. Cohen with the Dating Shalom Bayis series. How are you? I hope things are well with everyone out there. I'd like to encourage everyone out there who's a single or who knows anyone who's a single to please go to partnersinshidduchim.com and sign up and put up your resume there. It's a wonderful platform to meet many, many wonderful people. I myself go to that platform a lot to help many of my clients get matched up. It's beautiful. It's pre-screened. Many of the people there are outstanding. The individual who's responsible for it, the team that's responsible for it, is doing an extraordinary job. All volunteers just to help as many Jewish people as possible build great, wonderful Yiddish homes, Jewish homes. So please do that. If you are single, you know someone is single, please go to Partners in Shidduchim, sign them up, or tell them to put their resume up there. And if you need any help in any way to write up a resume, you can certainly turn to me. I do quite a bit of that, helping people write resumes throughout the world. Or if you need my help in any way, if you're in a relationship, you need evaluation, or you have any kind of dating obstruction or roadblock that you're encountering, or you need help with Shalom Bayis, I'm at 305-206-1916. You can reach me from anywhere in the world. You might try WhatsApping me first just to get me a message that you'd like an appointment, and we'll be happy to take care of you. Recently, I've been seeing a rash of two types of individuals that are coming in more than usual, and that has been people who suffer from dating anxiety and others who are having commitment phobia. Recently, I had a young woman from upstate who was thinking that she was okay, but then came to the conclusion that she had dating anxiety. We worked through it, and we were able to help her tremendously, and she's back on the road now, dating very nicely. And commitment phobia is something that I see quite a bit, and especially in the older single community and that population, and I'm helping quite a few people there as well. So I thought it'd be an incredible opportunity tonight to focus on some lessons of what they are. Let's define what is anxiety in dating, what is commitment phobia in dating, how do we treat it, how can we conquer it, and perhaps some individual stories from individuals who did conquer it so we can learn from their lives as to how to manage it and be able to go on to lead productive marriage lives. Okay, here's a letter written by a woman, and I'd like to share it with you. Let's see what lessons we can glean from it. I recently got married at age 38, she writes. I found my partner and I've been blessed with a supportive, caring, and loving husband. It was a very long, difficult journey to get here. I can't say I fully understand why I had to endure so much hardship and so many years in pain in singlehood, but I can say that I felt Hashem and God was with me throughout my dating experiences, and especially upon finally reaching the chuppah. Whenever I would get down about dating, people would tell me, dating is tough, but once you find the right person, everything will fall just neatly into place. This did not end up being the case for me. My journey to the chuppah was riddled with doubt, uncertainty, and severe anxiety that almost caused me to lose the one thing that I wanted most more than anything, and that took me 20 years to find. I'm sharing my story in hopes of shedding light on some issues that don't get talked about enough. My story began like most regular Orthodox Jewish girls, but the issues I grappled with apply to everyone out there. I grew up in a loving home with many wonderful siblings. I attended typical schools, my community, seminary, then college, and began dating at the age of 19, a tender age. I figured I would be married within a year or two like most of my siblings and friends. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. And as time trudged on, I grew increasingly more disappointed and frustrated with the direction that my life was taking. I had wanted to build a family, and that aspiration seemed increasingly more and more out of reach. As the years wore on, I kept accumulating more and more relationship heartbreak. At the age of 37, when I finally met my husband, I had been dating already for over 18 years. My life was so full at that point. I had amazing friends, a supportive family. I had traveled the world, lived on different continents, had seen different careers. There wasn't much I had not done, but marriage still evaded me for some reason. I had always held out hope of finding someone to settle down with, build a beautiful Jewish home with, but after all the years of painful breakups, the doubts and painful experiences had begun to eat away and gnaw away at me. I met my husband, and our first date was great. So were the following few dates. Then the trouble started. I was hit with severe anxiety like I never saw. I was someone who had previously experienced anxiety only in dating on a much smaller scale. But now, with this current relationship with my soon-to-be husband, it became severe. I wasn't eating well. I wasn't sleeping. My thoughts were constantly racing, and I was feeling nauseous all the time. I lost 10 pounds during our second month of dating, and I knew I needed professional help. I found a great doctor who prescribed medication that she was convinced would help me, and I saw her weekly to talk through my feelings with the doctor. Even though I sought out professional help, started a medication regimen, and also confided in my close friends and family, I was still in inner turmoil. I couldn't make up my mind about my husband. The anxiety, even though more manageable, was still very present within me. I found myself having good dates where I felt more confident about moving forward, and then I had bad dates where I felt that he might not be the right guy for me. as the anxiety just created such confusion within me, and I should end things with him. The worst part was not knowing if indeed he was the wrong guy for me, or if it was just my anxiety and fears taking over my life. Between my anxiety and my doubts and concerns, I just didn't see myself making it to the chuppah. I prayed for clarity from Hashem, and I continued dating in the hopes that I would reach a place where I could either break up or get married and look back at whatever choice I ended up making it with confidence. Throughout this incredibly torturous process, I wished I could speak to someone who had also experienced severe anxiety while dating and managed to make it to the chuppah, where their mental state and physiological symptoms threatened to derail their relationships, as I was experiencing. There was no one to turn to for advice who went through the same things and was open to talking about it. I have seen how anxiety and fear can ruin promising relationships. I am an example of someone that found dating to be difficult, draining, overwhelming, and exhausting. Yet I managed, thank God, to persevere through medication, therapy, a dating coach, and working through a lot of my own issues. I had to look inside and ask myself some really hard questions in order to really create a happy ending. If there's anyone out there who sees themselves in these paragraphs, I urge you not to give up. To cry your tears of frustration, to pray or meditate or do whatever you need to do in order to center yourself, and then put one foot in front of the other foot and keep moving forward. As they say in the Israeli Defense Forces, in the Israeli Army, let's go kadima, forward. Please don't let your fears or anxiety overtake a good relationship and potentially hinder you from living your best life. Here are a few suggestions that I recommend considering if you find yourself struggling with anxiety or fear and doubt about the relationship you are in or while dating in general. Speak to a dating professional or a health professional or a therapist to gain more support and perspective on your situation. Talk to the friends and family that you trust to help. Unload overwhelming emotions that you're feeling. A solid and healthy support system is a huge key to helping you stay strong through this process. Call a rabbi or a dating mentor, someone wiser than you, who may be able to give you valuable advice and offer a different perspective. Be kind to yourself. That means get a manicure, a massage, go for a run, listen to music, or just take time for yourself to reflect and always try to make that effort to stay centered. Allow yourself to process your feelings with patience and self-love. Do not beat yourself up for feeling confused, panicked, or afraid, and give yourself the permission to not know right now. I don't have to have the answer right now, which means that it's okay to have uncertainty in your life. Learn how to tolerate the uncertainty. While it may be uncomfortable, it's certainly not dangerous. Next, pray and journal. Use whatever means works for you to express your innermost thoughts in a coherent way so that you can better understand what's going on inside of you. Journaling, writing down your thoughts and your feelings also helps that in the future you can look back at the trajectory of the relationship, a time when you're more clear-headed and objective and not as emotionally enmeshed as in the moment. Of course, one of the great ways and great paths you can take is Emunah. It's to talk to Hashem every day. It's to read books like Living Emunah and the Garden of Emunah, which will bolster your connection to Hashem and help you realize that He's always with you, that He has your back. Explore some of the fears you have about moving forward. For instance, for someone who has been dating for many years, the thought of losing that single identity and assuming a new married one can be crazy. It can open up all kinds of feelings around who you are as a person and your sense of self. Ask yourself if fear of this transition is holding you back from reaching the goal you've been working for all these years. I always caution and I always advise singles, in order to be able to get married, you've got to transition from the I to the we. Start thinking as a team. I'm no longer in this by myself. I have a partner now who's going to go through this journey with me. I'm not alone. Let go of any ideas you may have in your head of what kind of person you thought you'd end up with. This is one of the things that people create a problem for themselves because they have this idea, I had a certain look of who I would marry. You have to banish these thoughts from your head and make it a clean sweep and realize, allow people to come into your life because you have no idea who's going to be your bashir, your soulmate. This is important because it may be holding up your relationship back from progressing. If I hadn't thrown out all the thoughts I had about what my life partner would be like, who I had fantasized about, I may not have continued dating my husband. He's so different than the other people I had dated in the past. But I realized that I was prioritizing the wrong things in relationships before I met my husband. I started to see him for who he truly was. And I can say with confidence, he's everything I need in a husband, and all the more. Sometimes you just need to get out of your own way and embrace new ideas and the potential for happiness with someone you never expected to meet. And finally, do things at your own pace. And talk to the person you're dating about what that pace is. Don't give in to social or family pressures to do things slower or faster than you feel comfortable with. You set your own pace. Don't allow anyone to rush you or slow you down. If you need to date for a good year to get to a good place, well, by all means do that. If having a short engagement or skipping certain typical wedding procedures is what you need to make it through, then do that. You can even adjust your actual wedding to suit your needs. For example, small guest list, a less intimidating venue, less or no dancing, whatever it takes to make you comfortable. There are no rules, there's only social norms. Don't let other people tell you what you need to do to make it to the other side of the river. Only you can answer those questions for yourself. And you need to find the strength to make it clear to the people around you how you need to do things for your own peace of mind. I remember how alone I felt trying to stay afloat while dating my husband. There were times when I felt like I was drowning. And I wish there had been people who had shared their difficult experiences, their difficult dating experiences with me, so I would have known a happy ending was possible. But there I was alone. So this is me telling you that your happy ending is truly possible with a capital is. Keep the faith and keep fighting. You can pick yourself up and come out on the other side too. Even though this was the most difficult experience of my life, it's amazing to have finally reached the finish line that I was working towards for almost 20 years of my life. I made it, and everyone out there can make it too. And continuing in the dating anxiety category, let's continue to someone who wrote me a letter. Dear doctor, I'm 30 years old and have a very good life so far. I have a loving, accepting family, many friends, and no issues or problems to speak of. I've been on the dating scene for a little while now, and I've been going out with a really great guy for the past few months. I find him genuine, sensitive and smart, attractive, and with life goals very similar to mine. My problem is that I'm scared. I worry that every date will be the last one, even though I can tell he's interested in me. When I hear the details of how a friend of mine was proposed to, I get nervous when I imagine it can possibly happen to me. When my friends tell me about how their dating lives are going, I'm thrilled for them and want to hear details of what's going on. But when it's time as the main character, I get nervous and I can't deal with it. This is holding me back from becoming emotionally involved with this man, and I want to get over this. Why do I believe that these romantic stories can happen to anybody else but not me? Here's how we would answer her. It's easy to see why you're feeling anxious about the relationships you're building with this young man. The idea of deciding that a particular person will be the one you marry and spend your life with is indeed scary. In fact, when it comes to such momentous steps in life, most normal people feel some anxiety as they're about to consider marriage. They wonder if their looks will appeal to the person that they're meeting for the first time, and if someone they've been dating a while will like what they're wearing. They'll wonder whether, if and when they'll start to feel a connection with the person they're dating. And once they do, they worry whether he feels the same way about them. As the dating gets more and more serious, they may worry that things are going too well, or that when will the first argument actually happen, or how the other person will react to a deeply personal revelation when they reveal something about them. Most people that are dating have concerns like these, and it's very likely that your friends to whom you're floating through these courtships are experiencing many of the same worries that you've expressed. Some of them may be just as anxious as you are, but are doing a good job of hiding their feelings because they don't want other people to know that what they're going through. It seems that you, though, spend more time dwelling on your anxious thoughts than many of your friends do, because by nature, you're more of a worrier than they are. It's important for you to understand that someone who tends to be more anxious than others about many aspects of life is likely to be more anxious about dating too. That doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. Some people are simply more sensitive in this area than others. But it does mean that you will need to learn techniques to calm yourself and lessen the intensity of your worrying. So here we go with tips and techniques how to manage and control dating anxiety. First, make sure you have someone you can talk to regularly about dating. Whether it's your parent, whether it's someone like a dating mentor or dating coach, a therapist. It should be someone who's been married for a few years, who has experience in the field, and who you can feel comfortable confiding in. Experience has shown that most daters benefit from having a mentor to answer their questions and share a married person's perspective. This is something that I do often and frequently, and it's obviously something that I love doing, and I enjoy being able to help guide people and mentor them. An anxious dater can particularly benefit from someone who can help them understand whether they're experiencing just a free-floating anxiety or if there's a genuine concern that needs to be truly addressed. That free-flowing anxiety seems to be what you're grappling with, meaning that it isn't based on anything concrete, but just general worries that are floating in your brain about what might happen in the uncertain future. It'll be helpful for you to spend some time figuring out exactly what are you worrying about. Set some time aside. Grab a notebook or a pad and a couple of pens. Think about each of your dates and write down exactly what occurred on the date that caused you to feel so anxious. Try to pinpoint what was it. If you are feeling anxious about future dates, write down what specific thoughts made you feel anxious. When you're finished, review your list and see if there's a common theme of anxiety triggers that are triggering your anxiety. Your next step will be to find ways to deal with this anxiety. One way is to talk about the specific triggers and themes with your dating mentor, discuss what's so scary about them, and how you might be able to use a reality check to respond to each fear. Many people find that this technique helps them to lessen their anxious feelings. Another way to keep yourself from dwelling on anxious thoughts is to introduce distractions. You can try something that occupies your hands as well as your mind. Crafts, needlework, poetry, baking. Exercise is also a great way of calming anxiety. So consider, take a run, go for a walk, ride your bicycle, or swim. Reading, listening to music, or playing a video game may also work for you as a great distraction. Another very effective technique is to try to live and be in the present. Take one day at a time, appreciate the moment, and try very hard not to project what the future will hold. This technique can be very helpful when you're on a date. Many people, when they're on a date, start worrying, can I marry this person? What will they be like as a potential husband or wife? Forget about it. Focus on the moment. Live in the present. If you start to think about what the man or woman you're dating will do next, or if he might be the right person for you, or she might be the right person for you, push that thought away and make yourself focus on what the two of you are doing right now. What are we talking about right now? What are we hearing? What are we seeing? What are we tasting? What are we experiencing? Again, return yourself to the present when you see yourself and catch yourself. By implementing these suggestions, you may not become 100% worry-free, but you should see a big improvement. Until now, I've given you suggestions about handling the kind of generalized worry that many people experience when dating. We realize that in terms of doing the writing exercise that I suggested, you may discover that something you're worried about has a basis. It could be a disagreement you had, something he did to upset you, or an issue you believe needs to be discussed with your dating partner. Here's where your mentor can be a big help. He can help you look at the issue, or she can help you look at the issue from a different perspective and help you decide how to deal with it on your own or together with the person that you're dating. The important thing to remember is dating can be a scary time, and many people are just as anxious as you are. I hope you'll use these suggestions and help you move forward in the dating relationship. Here's someone else who writes, here's an issue that's been really bothering me. I struggle to relax around people. More accurately, I struggle to relax around people who I want to like me. I tend to subconsciously classify people as either above me or below me, better than me or worse than me. When I'm with people I view as below me, I can completely relax and be myself. I'm not embarrassed to do anything funny or crazy or stupid, or to be assertive. However, when I'm with people that I view as above me, that are better than me, I get scared, I get nervous, I'm on edge. I'm subconsciously worrying what they'll think of me. I measure my words so carefully and suppress my true personality. It's as if I'm intimidated by them. These people tend to think that I'm shy, boring, or an underachiever. I realize that putting people into these categories is negative, and that what really counts is how God sees each and every one of us. I'd like to be able to stop doing this, categorizing people. And if they're below me, I'm easy and I feel comfortable with them. And if they're above me, suddenly I become agitated and nervous, a worrying mess. But I don't know how to change my ways. It's become a problem in dating because although I'm relaxed around women I view as below me, I'm generally not excited to be with them. On the other hand, I have trouble being myself with women that I want to connect with. And so it happens a number of times that although I'm keen and on paper we're a great match, she doesn't want to continue. And I often tell many of the guys out there are 3 things that are most attractive to a woman that subconsciously or consciously they're looking for in a man, and that a man has to demonstrate when he's on a date with a woman. 1, confidence. A man who's confident is most attractive to a woman. 2, a man with a plan. A man with a plan who's passionate and can describe his future dreams and goals is very attractive to a woman. And 3, responsibility. A woman craves a man who's responsible, and so who can demonstrate responsibility through the conversation and communication that they maintain together in their dating. So he's asking a question. Should I think that the challenge is for me to work on my self-esteem or character until I reach a point that I'm completely comfortable around all people? Or should I just say that the right woman for me is someone around whom I feel both relaxed and excited, and not try to conquer the whole problem and just focus on the category that I'm comfortable with? And he writes, I've spoken to a number of my friends who seem to also share this issue, so any advice would be greatly appreciated. So let's hear the answer. I often hear from men who are dating for marriage and wonder why they became so anxious when they're out with a woman they might think might be right for them. The anxiety cuts across many personality lines. It can affect men who often feel sure of themselves, as well as people who are not self-confident. It seems that when they are dating a woman who has qualities they admire, a personality they like, and whom they are attracted to, they begin to worry that she may not feel the same way as they do. They're sort of intimidated. As they worry, their level of anxiety increases. When they are out with the woman they hope to impress, they start to think too much, way too much. They begin to analyze everything that comes out of their mouth, worrying about what she will think and how she'll react. Instead of being relaxed and being themselves, they start to judge and measure every word that comes out of their mouth, and they're not natural anymore. They're not flowing. They're not at ease. Instead of being able to relax and have a normal flowing conversation, they may freeze up or babble or keep on talking without letting their date say very much. They sort of fall off their balance. They feel doubly uncomfortable during the pauses in the conversation that normally occur during the early stage of a courtship. They worry that I'm afraid I'm going to ruin something good, or can actually become a self-fulfilling prophecy, as anxiety keeps them from being themselves. Here are some tools that we can use to try to cure this problem of anxiety. There are many ways that you can learn to minimize your anxious feelings in order to have calmer and more enjoyable dates. Number one, use this simple breathing exercise whenever you sense your inner level of tension rising. Cup your hands over your mouth, like this, and breathe into them for a few moments. This will help even out your carbon dioxide levels and calm your physical symptoms. Just breathe in like that. Another easy exercise is to breathe from your nose and not from your mouth for a series of 10 breath cycles. And this is better because it allows your heart rate to slow down, so you will feel physically and mentally more relaxed. Instead of breathing in with your mouth and out with your mouth, you breathe in with your nose. Like that. In with your nose and out with your mouth. This helps the heart relax. And do that for 10 cycles. One of the best ways to reduce anxiety, another way, is to incorporate exercise into your daily living routine. Try for 30 minutes of exercise 3 to 5 times a week. Not only does exercise cause your body to release endorphins, which elevate your mood and is that feel-good feeling, but it can also help you feel that you are more proactive about your life and builds your self-confidence. Next, number 4, develop a few icebreaker lines that you can use to help lower your own anxiety and alleviate any discomfort you might feel when you're nervous. Meaning that have a joke ready to go just to start the conversation, or some icebreaker lines that you know that you've rehearsed. For example, you could say, I bet I can make you smile in 5 seconds. Or you can say something like, excuse me while I take my foot out of my mouth. Try not to think about the meaning behind what your date said or did and give so much emphasis and try to interpret everything that he or she is saying. Or how they react to your words or actions. Or whether don't start thinking in the middle of the date, will they go out with me again? Or if they like me. Or is this the one or not the one? Forget about all these thoughts. Banish all that, because that'll stop you from experiencing the date in real time. And you need to get back into real time. You can train yourself to push these thoughts out of your mind by telling yourself, thinking about this is not going to help me now. I'm simply not going to do it. So you have to rehearse. Remember, the mind is like the bicep. The brain is a muscle, just like the bicep. Just like you can train your biceps and triceps, you can train the muscle tissue in your brain by rehearsing and rehearsing and rehearsing, so that when you're actually on the date, you're now ready to go. Just like a soldier who rehearses for something they hope they never have to experience, but they nevertheless have the training so that when they're in the actual fighting, they're ready to go. They know what they have to do. They've trained. You can also train your mind. You can train your brain, which is muscle tissue, how to react and how to respond and what lines you want to use. One good approach is to tell yourself, and talking to yourself is important, I'm going to make the best of this date and focus on the experience of being on a date with a nice person. Pay attention to the sound of their voice and what they're saying. Is there something else you'd like to know about the subject she's discussing? Well, ask a question. Stay in real time. Facilitate the conversation by asking questions and say, oh, I get you. Wow, that must have been so painful. Oh, that must have been so exhilarating. Making comments in the conversation shows her or him that you're following their storyline. That's very important. Next, these strategies can help you become more positive and have a greater positive dating experience, and can time keep you from wondering whether or not you're good enough for the person that you're with. Now, identifying triggers. Here's another suggestion to help address your tendency to characterize people you date as better or worse. Intellectually, we know that each of us is strong in some areas and less strong in other areas, and that we shouldn't be making judgments about people's relative quality values. Who are we to decide who's better than us in anything? This This is especially true because we tend to judge people as better or worse than us when it comes to being wealthier than us or poorer than us, more educated than us or less educated than us. They have better looks than us physically or less better, or social standing. Nevertheless, we know and we admit it is indeed a hard habit to break. It will help you to understand why you tend to quickly categorize people into better or worse. Spend some time remembering when you first began to think along these lines. Is there a person or event in your life that made you think that you were better or worse than someone? What did you feel like when you thought this way? What other situations or people triggered those thoughts and feelings or other occasions? Think about what were the criteria that you first used and continue to use to compare yourself to others. Write these ideas down and review them. And then ask yourself, are these situations, circumstances, or people that trigger your tendency to compare and to judge, is it worth it? Once you understand how this process began and how you repeat it today, you can develop a way to change your habits. So go into your psyche, do a history of where this is starting from, and try to pinpoint it, and then you'll be able to catch yourself. The best way to make this change is to notice when you start engaging in judgmentalism and then talk yourself right out of it. There I go again. This is what you should say to yourself. There I go again. Thinking I'm better or worse than someone else. Who am I? What right do I have to think that I'm better or worse than someone? I know why I do this. I've always felt uncomfortable about my looks. Susie is very pretty, and I jumped to the conclusion that she's a better quality person than me because she's better looking than I feel I am. And as a result, I sink myself into an inferiority complex. I have to stop making these judgments. You have to talk to yourself. I have to look at Susie as a whole person, just as I want her to see me as a whole person. I'm not going to get stuck in an unhealthy way of thinking, but instead try to get to know her better and hope that she'll want to get to know me too. Work out a good self-talk script that'll help you get unstuck in the future. You're your best fan. You're your most important fan. Get used to talking to yourself. With a little patience and practice, these suggestions can help you approach dating with a healthier attitude. And just to wrap up, a quick 7-unit guide for how to deal with anxiety. Number 1, acknowledge, tell yourself this is going to pass. Give yourself a pep talk, like we said before. Change your questions and get yourself to be focused in the moment and breathe deeply, and obviously get some help either with a dating mentor or a therapist. Now, let's move on to commitment phobia. That's one of the biggest problems that we see, especially in older singles. How can we help them to cure it and to lick it once and for all? A person writes a letter. I've been dating seriously for about 5 years, and I'm beginning to feel that I have serious issues with commitment. I've broken off an almost engagement as well as an actual engagement. So he was engaged once, and he was almost engaged once. I'm still reeling from my broken engagement, which took place only a few months ago. When my former fiancé and I first started dating, I had a feeling early on that I could marry this guy. He took this as a cue to show his willingness to make a commitment. However, I began to feel uncomfortable, and I started finding all types of faults with him. Because of this, we took a small break, but then we got back together and decided to get engaged. However, I started getting scared again, and I begged for time to think about it. I kept worrying. Why don't I get excited when he's with me and that he loves me? Why can't I reciprocate his love? That must be a bad sign. On the other hand, I thought, he's such an amazing guy who would make such a wonderful husband. I decided my negative feelings were just due to commitment phobia and proceeded with the engagement. After our engagement party, I experienced severe ups and downs, including panic attacks and nausea. From any perspective, I had self-doubt. I kept thinking, if I break up with him, I'll regret not having married him. And then if I marry him, I might totally regret it. My poor fiancé had to put up with a roller coaster ride, and the end of the story is we broke it off. There was a similar pattern with the guy to whom I almost became engaged with. I had initial enthusiasm, and then I saw faults and problems, especially once we started discussing engagement. I liked him, but I kept putting him off until he gave me an ultimatum. Either we get engaged or I'm out of here. Right now, I feel stuck. Have I made a mistake and missed my soulmate? Or was I right? I'm worried that I'll have these issues with whatever guy I date, and that I'll never break out of this commitment rut. What do you recommend for me? The difficulty is more than just the fear of commitment. The answer is like this. The difficulty is just more than a fear of commitment. It's intertwined with you not knowing what to look for in a future spouse and how to pace yourself when building a relationship that can lead to an enduring marriage. And this is very important. And here I go. I'm going to explain to you what happened here. The pattern you described is like someone you date thinking that this will be able to build a life with him and having second thoughts once it gets to the point of commitment. You don't trust your judgment, and you vacillate between certainty and doubt. One of the main reasons you feel this way is that you have skipped many important steps in the relationship building process and moved toward commitment way too soon. Marriage involves more than simply liking each other and thinking the other person will be a good spouse. Two people must start with compatible goals. Again, two people must start with compatible goals and common values. And each should believe that the other has the important personal qualities they need in a future spouse to possess. I just got off the phone tonight with a wonderful person who asked for my help in shidduchim to help them get matched up. They came out of 2 marriages, and they were both quick, and both divorces were quick. So one can see right away there was unfortunately poor preparation. That person who was well-meaning, she didn't get the proper guidance. She didn't know what to look for in dating, or she was also, in her case, older. She was afraid that perhaps she may not get married and have children. So a person has to be very cautious and go about the dating process in the way that I teach. First of all, you have to create a top 10 list of needs. What do I need in a person? For example, if you're a woman, we have to always look out for someone who's generous, who has a Rabbi or a mentor, who doesn't have temper issues, who is flexible, who has a commitment to making a family, who's emotionally available and stable, who's nurturing, who's kind, who's warm, who has a plan to be able to financially support his family. And if you're a guy, you want a girl who's wholesome, who's a nurturer, who's kind and compassionate, who has a desire to take care of the kids, who's patient, who does chesed. That's the key. And then as you date, you have to look for these qualities. And it's so important. Again, two people must start with compatible goals and common values, and each should believe that the other has the important personal qualities they need their future spouse to possess. During the time that they date and their courtship, they have to develop respect and admiration for each other, as well as an emotional connection that leads to emotional intimacy. Emotional intimacy is that part in the relationship where after, say, 7, 8, or 9, or 10 dates, you're connecting, you're sharing intimate things with each other, you're looking to solutionize with each other, you miss each other when you don't see each other, you're happy to do small little favors for each other. It's that kind of connection that you're seeing with each other. You're no longer looking to your friends for guidance or help, but you're going to the person that you're dating. You begin to care about each other. This emerges as the two spend time discussing many aspects about the past, the present, and the future, and you share experiences together. It seems that you did not go through this process. Most people need to see each other in a variety of situations and feel that they are developing respect, admiration, and feelings of affection for each other. The optimal way of doing this is to date twice a week and to speak on the phone once or twice in between dates. While there's no specific time frame that works for everyone, in my experience, couples need to feel that emotional connection or affection, respect and admiration before they discuss getting married. It's the pair test that I often speak about in my lectures. P is physical attraction, A is admiration, acceptance, and affection. I is emotional intimacy, and R is respect. You need to be able to check off all these boxes before you can even think about proposal into marriage. With both of the people you described that you went out with both of the men, you seem to have rushed into thinking about engagement far too soon. It doesn't matter if you did so because you let your emotions think for you, or because you felt you should agree to get married because he was a nice guy with all the right qualities. The bottom line is that you got engaged or came close to becoming engaged, even though you weren't really sure that this was the right person for you because you never did due diligence to determine that. Another thing is, in order to become a very effective dater that knows exactly what they want, you need to become an effective communicator. You need to know how to ask the right questions. And for that, there's help. I often help people, I train people in dry runs many times throughout the world. I have Zooms every day and WhatsApp video sessions every day, training people how to communicate. And I can help you as well if you need that. You just reach out to me. And if you'd like questions to ask, I do have a PDF that I send to people that has many questions that you can ask in the dating process, which will help you be able to determine and mine the answers that you need to see if that person is right for you. Because you were anxious about this, you began to focus on the flaws that you had as a way of binding your anxiety. You also began to doubt your feelings for the person, feelings that never fully developed in the first place because you never actually went about the process of dating the right way. Had you paced your dating in a more optimal way with more questions and more research and looking for more proper common hashkafa and common values, you could have been more certain about your feelings and you would have viewed his faults completely differently. In other words, you could have been able to see the bigger picture and could have either accepted his imperfections along with the qualities that you liked and respected and admired, or you could have decided that this guy's not right for you because of all the ingredients for a healthy relationship were not present, because you would have seen that what you were looking for, that what you needed to be happy, he didn't bring to the table because he didn't check off what you're looking for in your top 10 list. Beyond this, you may also have a genuine fear of commitment. The nausea that you experience is often felt by people who second-guess their decisions that were made prematurely, but they're also felt by people who are afraid of commitment. In fact, the fact that you bypass the early stages of development might be due to the fact that you're afraid to open up or to reveal your inner self, and that could be a problem, because if you can't expose your vulnerability in dating, you're going to have a hard time getting into that kind of depth. Or you may not trust your own sense of judgment about marriage, and you may worry that something bad may happen, or fear making the next step because of an unresolved issue from your past. I don't know you well enough to say that these scenarios may apply to you, but that all has to be looked into. However, I can offer an idea that will help you gain some insight as to whether your unproductive dating patterns are intertwined with a fear of commitment. Get a notebook and pen, set aside some time, and start to write. Do you have a clear idea of what you would like in your life as a spouse? What do you want out of life and how you would like to get there? What do you want out of life? What are your dreams? What are your ambitions? Write it down and describe it. And then start to look at these notes. Next, write down what makes you anxious or scared about becoming close, emotionally close with someone, deciding that he's the one right for you, becoming engaged, getting married, and being married. Then go over each item and think about how you can deal with that concern. If you get stuck at any point in these exercises, or you're not happy with the answers, then you may certainly have a problem with commitment. And you may need to look to get some help either with a therapist or a dating professional. So you can always give me a call or someone like me, and we can help you work through these areas. Again, let's talk about commitment a little bit more deeper. Everyone's a little scared of commitment. As the wedding day approaches, both the bride and the groom feel more and more anxious and tense. In fact, Jewish custom is that the couple doesn't see each other for the week before the wedding, or even speak, in order to avoid the needless fights that would arise out of all the stress. As we know, the week before the wedding is most stressful. So one of the reasons why there's a custom that bride and groom don't talk is because they want to prevent the possibility of having arguments, because people are very worked up and nervous and stressed out that week before the wedding. Marriage is a heavy decision, and both sides, if they are alert and rational, can enter the marriage with joy and at the same time trepidation. Although men are often chastised for their fear of commitment, in the book called Voicemail, which points to a recent survey by the United States Census Bureau, nearly 9 out of 10 American men will marry at least once in their lifetimes. This does not support a deep fear of commitment if 9 out of 10 are getting married. In fact, the high divorce rate suggests perhaps the fear wasn't great enough, or the understanding of what it means to be married. As our desire to get married grows, our ability to choose wisely and carefully to fully evaluate the consequences of this commitment may diminish. A friend once told me that she spent every post-date analyzing their conversations for signs of his feelings about her. It was only after some gentle prodding on my part that she remembered to explore her feelings for him. If a woman is not as frightened as her spouse about the upcoming change, then perhaps she isn't taking it seriously enough. Perhaps it's about the dress, the party, and playing house that's bothering her. Perhaps she takes for granted her ability to be a good wife. It takes a lot of effort to build something positive and lasting with another human being. If we choose someone whose character we admire and respect, and whose goals coincide with our own goals, then certainly our fear should be tremendously diminished. As I said before, if you've created a top 10 list and you've dated scientifically with that list, then you have a great possibility that you're with the right person. But still, even though we're dating, we have to still stand in awe of the responsibility we're undertaking. And instead of concentrating on our partner, let's turn inward and evaluate ourselves. Are we up to the task? Are we ready for the job of focusing on someone else instead of ourselves, which we became so used to? And putting the needs of another person before our own? Are we up to the task of ignoring the negative and looking at the positive in ourselves and in someone else? Are we up to the task of putting on our best face and best outfit when we're not in the mood in front of our spouses? I heard a rabbi who eulogized his wife saying, "Living with my wife was a taste of the Garden of Eden." Are we up to that task? Can we live such a life? Certainly we're capable of it. We all are capable of it. The question is, are we choosing that? Are we trying to make ourselves into such people? Creating a great marriage takes a tremendous amount of work. So it's important to prioritize and to determine, how do we go about doing this? We're given many different titles in our lives: vice president, mommy, you there, Mr., Mrs. Which, whatever it is the most. When a Jewish couple gets married, we give them a blessing that we should build a bayit ne'eman b'Yisrael, that they should build a faithful home in Israel. Why does everyone give this very same blessing, that when they get married, that they should build a faithful home in Israel? What's that all about? It's not just a lack of the creative spirit. It's not that we can't come up with any other blessings. It's because that having a home in which God's presence can rest, a home that is special and holy, doesn't come easily or naturally. It requires energy, your energy, and good wishes of the young couple and all their friends and family with the help from Hashem. It requires effort, and it requires, above all, a bracha. To build such a home of faith where God comes to reside requires a blessing. Both men and women should have some fear of commitment, and we should take that anxiety and channel it into building a fantastic Jewish home. I'd like to take the balance of the rest of this talk tonight to give you some how-tos. How do we deal with it? First, let me get there, let me just say one thing. This is very important. In Pirkei Avot, we are told that love is dependent on something which is external, will not last. Ahava that's kishra ledavar, אין סופה לקיימת. Rather, אהבה שתלויה בדבר, אין סופה לקיימת. Any love that's dependent on something does not endure, will not last. Only love that is unconditional is enduring. Sometimes we hear about husbands who are no longer happy with their wives' physical appearance. This is the complete opposite of our definition of love. Weight and looks can't be made a condition of marriage. Besides making the overweight or otherwise less attractive person crazy, it doesn't even come close to our understanding of what a real commitment is. And we've heard women say, if he loses his money, I'm out of this marriage. It's hard to know which alternative would be best for the hapless husband of such a person. And it never ceases to amaze us. Commitment means no conditions. Again, making a commitment to marry someone means no conditions. It means that I have challenges and that you have challenges, and we'll see them through together. If either partner feels that one false move leads to stern disapproval and rejection, we call that abuse. The truth is that we need to separate fantasy and expectations from reality, and we need to learn what it means to make a commitment based on who our partner is and not that we don't want them to be. In this economy, many people have lost jobs. Is your commitment dependent on your date's career or power? People get ill. They lose limbs. They end up in wheelchairs, God forbid. Did you only commit to someone who marry you and go hiking and dancing with you? All too often we hear people say, this isn't what I signed up for. But marriage isn't a 9-to-5 job where barring presents you for the opportunity to buy gifts and all the time, with no limits to the job description. There'll be many surprises in store, some wonderful, some not so wonderful. If we don't understand that commitment is unconditional, then we will never really know how great a dating experience can be. We are hurting and limiting ourselves. Commitment means that no matter what, we are in this for the long haul. Again, let me repeat myself. Commitment means that no matter what, I'm in this for the long haul. There'll be things like I don't like. There'll be things that I don't like. There'll be situations I don't like. There'll be challenges and struggles that we'll have to meet together when I finally get married. But that's okay. I'm up to the task. It's wrong to believe that commitment weakens as alternatives increase. With a strong commitment, there are simply no alternatives. So one of the things we can do to be able to cure and conquer commitment. Number one, create relationships based in freedom. Finding and building freedom within a relationship is critical in order to build a stable and lasting partnership that allows you to breathe and retain your independence. We often see our romantic relationships as stifling affairs, and they need not be, right? They don't have to be filled with obsession and constant skin-to-skin contact after we're married, etc. Stop seeing relationships as something which must be built on a basis of control or obsession. Instead, start looking at relationships that can be both about you and the other person. Focus on creating space in the relationship, which allows you to have your privacy, maintain your boundaries, and do what you need to do in order to feel fulfilled when you're with your partner. And be honest and don't try to push things too fast. Shift your perspective and see your relationship in a whole new light. Look at it as a commitment to yourself rather than just as a commitment to the other person. And look at it as a great way to build the future that you want with someone that you can trust. The world is a crazy place, and it's only getting crazier by the day as we see what's going on in the news today. True partnership, if that's what you're seeking, won't wait forever. Get proactive about finding someone to commit to if that's what you need. Number two, be open and honest. Honesty is a major part of any partnership, and that applies whether we found ourselves in a long-term or short-term relationship. When we are honest with both ourselves and the person we're dating, it makes it easier to open up and makes it easier to become comfortable with each other. Okay, number three, get emotionally savvy. Getting in touch with and in charge of our emotions is a great way to face up to our fears and insecurities, and by effect, our commitment phobias. Our emotions are complex and nuanced things whose roots run deep into the shadows of childhood and darkest secrets. Learn more about your emotions. Learn how to master your emotions by learning how to differentiate between your emotions and the things that trigger them. Take your emotional temperature regularly and figure out what is it that makes you happy? What is it that makes you sad? What makes you frustrated? What gets you overwhelmed? Look at your decision making and see how it's impacted by your emotions, both positively and negatively, by your emotional states of being, and strive to keep a record of what upsets you and how you react to them. Emotional differentiation is powerful, and it helps stop negative emotions from getting worse by building up our confidence in facing them, by understanding where they come from and what triggers them. Number four, drop the lies. Stop the lies. One of the biggest reasons we find ourselves struggling with the idea of commitments is the lies that we tell ourselves. These lies are not just about relationships, they're lies we tell about ourselves and also lies we tell about life in general. When we fear commitment or serious relationships, it's often because we've invested so much time in the lies and delusions that keep us scared. Drop the lies and get real about who you are, what you want, and what you're capable of. There's no such thing as the perfect person to date. There is no such thing as the perfect relationship, just as there's no such thing as the perfect partner. All we can do when it comes to our relationships is the same thing we did for everything else, the best that we can. Teach yourself to trust in the journey through life, trust in the process, and the ups and downs that are naturally a part of the process. Number 5, learn new ways to boost yourself. The commitment phobe is one who often finds themselves dealing with infidelity. They're often looking at other people. They're not loyal to any specific person, and that's a problem. If you're someone who avoids committing or settling down because you constantly find yourself turning your head and looking at other people, try taking some time on your own to try to address the roots of what's causing this. Look for new activities and pastimes that let you cultivate new skills, and work on building your own pride in yourself rather than looking for validation in other people. When we learn how to love ourselves from within, it makes it easier to love people without. Boost your own self-esteem and don't rely on others to do it for you. Self-esteem is delicate, but it feeds directly into the way we see our relationships and the way in which we interact with the people around us. By focusing on our own self-confidence, you can boost the security you feel in partnerships that require you to open up, compromise, or otherwise lean into another person. Stop the comparisons with other people. If you want to find your forever person, you need to be that person yourself first. Number 6, invest in self-care. Life is hard and can often disrupt us from the things that we truly want. This unfortunately does nothing more than make us feel even worse. And it also causes us to lose sight of the amazing strengths and beauties we possess on our own as individuals. By learning how to stop being hyper-focused on all the bad things that might go wrong, while spending a little more time with ourselves, we can learn how to be more open and connected with our partners. Facing up to our commitment issues is the perfect time to get back in touch with the authentic us. You can rediscover your true needs, the things we need from our lives, and the relationship changes over time. And that's okay. Having the space to focus on ourselves can reveal some surprising new truths. And when we start to take care of ourselves, these truths can quickly become gratitude points. And gratitude is so key. We must keep a gratitude journal. As I tell my clients all the time, read the thank you card every day. If you need a copy of it, just reach out to me. I'll be happy to WhatsApp it to you or email it to you. Stop denying yourself happiness. Look at and see all the beauty and good that you have in your life. And start saying yes to the things you truly want. Open up. Find the courage you need to create a long-term relationship by taking care of yourself. Get to know the person you are on the inside and do all those things you've been doubting of putting off. Number 7, most importantly, practice self-acceptance. Only when we learn how to accept ourselves and the way we feel and react to the environment around us can we truly unlock the power of our authentic self. We all have baggage and the experiences that define who we are in the moment, but that person is always changing. We are always evolving. We're in a dynamic process as we live through this world. If you want to change the way you view relationships, you have to change the way you view yourself and learn how to accept yourself as you are. Let go of all the judgments and preconceived notions you have about yourself. I'm a loser, I'm no good, I'm never going to get married. You've got to eliminate these thoughts. Remind yourself that the only behavior within the realm of your control is your own, and own up to your behavior and the things that drove you to those points. Not everything is destined for failure. Embrace who you are. Embrace your strengths. Embrace the journey. You are worthy of everlasting love as anyone else in the universe. You can be loved and you can give love as good as anyone out there. If you are ready to get rid of your commitment issues, make a plan to change it, but only after looking it boldly in the face and accepting your fears for what they are. Acceptance is the key to all change and understanding, but it is often the hardest hurdle to overcome. Only when we accept something that is within our nature can we dig into the meat of it and come up with a plan to change us. Spend a few minutes each day practicing self-acceptance of yourself and look to build it into a regular routine. Put it all together. Fear of commitment is a real thing, and it can seriously undermine our happiness when we don't work to address it effectively. By getting to the root of our fears and insecurities while getting real about what we really want in life, it's possible to overcome our serious relationship phobias. This takes a lot of introspection, however, as the courage to look past the things that keep us stuck, scared, and otherwise chained to the things that don't really serve the purpose we're looking for. If we want long-term relationships in our lives, we have to work to make them. And we have to get there and do the work. As I often tell my clients, you got to do the work. You got to do the journaling. You got to do the writing. You got to get to the fears, and you got to face them, and God will help you. And we can do that by incorporating all the wonderful principles that I was able to share with you tonight. It was an honor and a pleasure to give this very important talk to the people out there who are experiencing dating phobias, or dating anxieties, and commitment phobias. By all means, if you need my help to conquer these areas, I'd be happy and delighted to help you. Or if you need help in any way, whether it's writing a dating resume or evaluating your relationship, you have a shalom bias issue, we'd like a copy of the PDF of the communication questions to ask on a date, or just anything with regarding to dating or shalom bias, you can feel free to reach me from anywhere in the world at 305 206-1916, or email me at drjackcohen18@gmail.com, or simply go to my website, drjackdating.com, for more information. Lots of great and interesting videos that you can learn and grab many wonderful new techniques to make yourself the best person you can become. Have a wonderful week.